Okay? So for our learning competencies for this particular topic, okay, these are the things that we are going to learn. First will be to be able to define investment in associate, kasi if you are not able to define, if you do not know what investment in associate is, then hindi mo din lang maka-classify at hindi mo ma-account ng tama. Next is you're going to describe the accounting requirement for investment in associate. In other words, how are you going to use the equity method in the in accounting for investment in associate transactions. And then third is account for the investor share in the losses. So this is with regards to situations wherein instead na nagpa-profit yung ating associate, nagkakaroon ng losses. Okay? So we go to the definition of terms. So basically, pag pupunta ka dun sa standard, actually nasama pa dun sa definitions yung tawag dito, yung mga items relating to joint arrangements or yung joint ventures. Pero hindi natin gagamitin yan. So, ang selected the terms lang that are related to your associate will be yung term mismo na associate at saka yung significant influence. Okay? So, an associate is an entity which is not limited to your incorporated entities. Pwedeng unincorporated yan. Okay? Pwedeng partnership, ganyan. Basta ang importante, you have significant influence over that particular entity. So basically, the keyword in order for you to claim that a particular entity is an associate is if you are an investor in a particular entity and you have significant influence over that particular entity. Okay? So pag sinabi naman nating significant influence, ano ibig sabihin yan? It simply means that you have the power to participate. Take note, participate lang. Okay? Pwede kang mag-suggest, pwede kang magbigay ng input mo, pero wala kang control over that particular entity. So, significant influence is a situation where you have the power to participate in the financial and operating policy decisions of the investee. Okay? But is not control or joint control over those policies. Okay? Kasi kapag nagkaroon na ng control, then subsidiary na yon. Kapag nagkaroon tayo ng joint control, then joint venture na yon. So, kailangan kasi nating i-distinguish yung klase ng ownership natin doon sa ating entity. So, again, pag sinabi nating associate, kailangan significant influence lang. At pag sinabi nating significant influence, participation lang. Okay? Hindi control, hindi rin joint control. Okay? So, ngayon, in order for us to have significant influence, there are actually provisions in our standard na magbibigay sa atin ng idea kung ano ang significant influence. Okay? So, isa dyan yung presumptive or yung ating assumption na yung 20% ownership doon sa voting rights. Okay? Take note voting rights lang. Okay? So, sorry. So, voting rights or voting power pertains to your actual and your potential. Okay? And also, there are 5 other indicators that can give us an idea kung ano daw ang ating tawag dito, kung meron tayong significant influence dyan. So, to sum up na lang, okay? So, dun sa ating concept ng significant influence. Okay, so significant influence tayo. So when you talk about significant influence, meron tayong keywords dyan, okay? At ang keywords na ginagamit ko ay yung permit, okay? P-E-R-M-I-T. Okay, para hindi mo kakalimutan, okay? So ano yung P? Participation in policy making. Okay? So yan yung first. Kailangan meron kang participation dun sa policy making ng investee. Okay? Ano yung E? Existence of at least 20% ownership. Okay? Existence of at least 20% ownership doon sa ating investee corporation. Ano yung R? Representation in management na lang. Okay? Kasi kapag nilagay natin board of directors lang, ang labas kasi dyan, limited lang tayo sa corporate setup. Just to clarify nga ulit, pag sinabi kasi nating invest or pag sinabi kasi nating associate, pwedeng unincorporated entity yan. So ilagay na lang natin representation in management para general approach siya. Okay? So yan yan. Ano yung M natin? Material transactions. Transactions. Ibig sabihin, meron tayong material transactions with the investee. Okay, kasi nga we consider them as a partner in the operations. Okay? So kaya may material transactions tayo diyan. Ano yung I? Ito yung interchange of key personnel. Okay? Or key management personnel. Okay? Yan yan. Tapos yung T, technical information sharing. Okay? Okay. So yan basically yung mga items natin na kailangan nating i-consider pagdating dun sa determination ng significant influence. Okay? So yan yan. So yan. So ito yung mga titignan mo. So take note sa theories, pag theories ang pinag-uusapan natin, ito yung mga i-consider mo. Okay, ito yung mga hanapin mo na magiging basis mo kung meron nga talaga tayong significant influence. Okay? Pero kapag problems yung sinosolve natin, usually ito lang yung ginagamit. Okay, i-compute mo lang yung at least 20% ownership. Okay? Although merong ibang mga examiners na ang gagamitin nila is magbibigay sila ng mga other indicators such as yung PRMIT. Okay? Pero hindi kasi yun yung mga usual na lumalabas sa board exams. Ang usual na lumalabas sa board exams yung ito lang. Okay? Tapos by the way, if you consider the syllabus, kalimutan kong sabihin, if you consider the syllabus for board examinations, yung ating investment in associate, ang i-expect mo lang dyan, isang question lang yan. Okay? Diba? So, ang dahil mga aralin, tapos isang question lang yung lalabas pagdating sa item na to. Tapos, yung lalabas na isang item, hindi mo pa sure kung yan ay problem question or theory question. Okay? So anyway, moving on. So yan yung mga items natin. So huwag mo kakalimutan yan. Okay. So, yun din yung nakalagay dito. Okay? So, I simply made my own mnemonics para mas madali kong maintindihan at mas madali kong ma-memorize yung mga items na yun. Yan. Okay. So, talking about the existence of 20% voting rights, okay, or yung voting power, when you talk about your 20%, it does not necessarily mean na kailangan ay actual yung ating ownership. Kasi sinabi, ayun no, significant influence is presumed to exist if the investor holds directly or indirectly, okay, 20% or more of the voting power. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, pwedeng indirect yan, okay, at pwede ring potential yan. Okay? So, meaning, your voting rights, or the computation of your voting rights, or your voting power over the investee should consider the actual and the potential. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, if you have stock rights, if you have stock options, or if you have stock warrants that you are holding, okay, that can give you additional voting rights or voting power. Pag in-exercise mo yung mga rights, options, and warrants na yan, at pag kinompute mo, then you will now have 20% or more voting power, then it can still indicate, okay, na ikaw nga ay may associate. Okay? Yun siya. Ngayon, bago tayo mag-move on, dahil voting rights ang pinag-uusapan natin, ibig sabihin kahit kunin mo lahat ng preference shares, okay, hindi pa rin siya pwedeng maging investment in associate because preference shares generally has no voting rights. Okay? Not unless the preference shares are convertible at pag kinonvert mo yung preference shares mo into into ordinary shares, magkakaroon ka ng significant influence. Okay? So, yun yung isa pang consideration dyan. Okay, last one before we move on. Kahit sabihin mong bumili ka ng 20% or more of the shares, okay, of the company, kung wala ka namang intention, okay, na i-exercise yung voting rights mo to gain significant influence over that entity, then hindi mo pa rin i-account yan using IAS 28 or PAS 28. Kasi ang mangyari dyan, kahit sabihin mong 20% or more yung hawak mo, kung ang balak mo pala is i-recognize yan under IFRS 9 or yung ating investments in FVPL or FVOC, okay, then hindi pa rin siya pwedeng maging part ng PAS 28. Okay? So, yun. So, yun lang yung kailangan nating i-consider dyan. Okay. So, moving on, we now go to our equity method. So, for our equity method, basically, what we are trying to do here is to account for the changes in equity in the investee. Okay? So, changes in the equity of the investee. Okay. So, importante, itong concept ng changes in equity dito kasi ito rin yung magdedetermine later on at ito yung magka-clarify sa atin kung bakit yung dividends ay dapat paid at hindi lang declared para magkaroon ka ng journal entry under equity method. Okay? So basically, when you talk about equity method in investment in associates, it is basically going to be yung ganito. Okay? So, ang gagawin natin, actually, dalawang T account yan or dalawang item yan. Actually, ang kailangan mo lang i-monitor will be yung investment in associate mo at saka yung ating share in the income of the associate. Okay? So, dun muna tayo sa investment in associate. Of course, you're going to recognize it at cost. Okay? Kaya yung beginning balance mo ng investment in associate, ito yung cost kung magkano mo nagastos or kung magkano mo binili yung associate natin. Okay, so yan yan. Pagkatapos, we proceed with, kapag kumita, there will be a share in profit. So, kukunin mo dito, magdi-debit ka naman dito. Yun din yung credit mo dito. So, generally, ang journal entry mo dyan will be to debit yung share debit investment in associate, tapos credit ka ng income from associate or share in the associate's income. Okay? Kapag loss naman, kabaliktaran. So, ang gagawin mo, magdi-debit ka ng loss from associate, pagkatapos credit ka ng investment in associate. Okay? Ganun din, whenever there are increases in the OCI, okay, kasi kailangan mo rin i-consider na you are also going to share in the other comprehensive income items of the investee because you are talking about the equity items of the associate. So kapag may mga OCI components yan at may share ka din doon, syempre kailangan mong gumawa din ng journal entry. So kapag kumita or increase in OCI, yung mga credit items, then i-debit mo siya dito. Yung share mo lang wag yung lahat-lahat, yung share mo lang. Tapos kapag meron ding decreases naman or mga debit items sa OCI, i-recognize mo naman siya as a credit dito kasi binabawasan naman natin yung investment in associate. Okay? Tapos ito, yung dividends, take note, 'di ba, kapag ikaw ay nagkaroon ng dividend dito, okay? So, ang gagawin mo lang dito, we are going to recognize the share in the dividend whenever there is a payment here. Okay? So, yun yun. So, yun yung mangyayari dyan. Pagkatapos, basically, kunyari kung cash dividend yun, so you're going to debit cash, tapos credit ka ng investment in associate. Okay? Kapag nagkaroon ka ng receipt of that particular dividend. Okay? Yun. Tapos yung mga undervaluation and overvaluation of assets, syempre magkabaliktad naman yung mga yun. Later on kasi yung mga, ang tawag dito, ito yung kapag nagkaroon tayo ng amortization or adjustments for the undervaluation or overvaluations. Meron tayong example mamaya. Okay. So we go now to preference shares. Okay, kapag nakatanggap ka ng preference shares, okay, or meron preference shares, kapag merong preference shares yung ating associate, okay? So basically, this concept is going to affect the computation of your income or your share in your income, okay? So later on, if your associate presents already or already provided you with the net income, okay? Then, ang kailangan mo munang gawin dyan is, of course, determine whether there is a portion of the preference dividends that needs to be deducted. Okay? So, ang basic na rule natin dyan, kapag yung preference share ay cumulative, then regardless if there is dividend declaration or none, doon sa preference share, kailangan nating ibawas yung preference dividend doon sa net income, okay, para makuha natin kung magkano yung share natin doon. Okay? Ngayon, kapag non-cumulative naman, saka lang natin ibabawas yung preference dividends, okay, kapag merong declaration. Okay? So, kapag redeemable naman yung preference share, okay, syempre wala ka nang poproblemahin dyan kasi if the preference share is redeemable, this is the concept na yung inaral din natin sa yung inaral natin initially doon sa ating topic ng cash and cash equivalents, di ba? So if this is a redeemable preference share, it is in essence a liability pero equity yung form niya. Okay, so ang gagawin mo doon, yung dividend ngayon is not going to be going to affect your profit or loss kasi yun ay na-deduct na as interest later on. Okay? Nandun na kasi siya. Okay, so hindi na yun kailangan bawasan pa ulit kasi madodoble. Okay? Ayan. Next. So next concern naman natin is yung discontinuance of your equity method. Okay? So kailan tayo magkakaroon ng discontinuance, okay, of your equity method? Okay? So basically, dalawa lang yan. Okay? Yung either pag nag-increase yung ating ownership or number 2, pag nag-decrease yung ating ownership. Okay? So basically, kapag nag-increase yung ownership mo at magkakaroon ka na ng control over the entity, then hindi mo na siya associate. Magiging subsidiary mo na siya. So ibig sabihin, stop ka na sa paggamit ng equity method at gagamitin na natin yung provisions ng PFRS 3 at saka PFRS 10, okay, sa pagre-recognize ng ating investment. Okay? So kasi magiging subsidiary na siya. Okay? So yun. Ngayon naman kapag bumaba yung ownership mo at hindi ka na pwedeng magkaroon ng significant influence, so bababa tayo, papunta na tayo sa IFRS 9 naman or yung ating financial instruments. So ganun lang yung gagawin natin dyan. So ang basic concept on the loss of significant influence, okay? So ito, tapos na to yung pag nag-start ng pag nagkaroon tayo ng increase in significant nag-increase in ownership, okay? Next, so kapag nagkaroon naman ng loss of significant influence, the investor shall measure at fair value any investment, okay? The investor retains in the former associate, okay? So i-measure mo at fair value. Tapos the difference will be recognized in profit or loss, parang gain or loss on reclassification lang yan. And then the fair value of any retained investment and any proceeds from the disposing of the part interest of the associate, okay, sa P&L yun, pati yung carrying amount of the investment and at the date when significant influence is lost. Okay, so yan yung kukunin mong yung difference nito, yun yung papasok sa ating profit or loss. So basically, carrying amount versus fair value. Okay, that will be presented as part of your profit or loss. Okay, so ulitin para makuha mo yung gain or loss on reclassification, kukunin mo muna yung fair value ng ating naiwan na investment, ibabangga mo siya doon sa carrying value ng naiwan na investment at yung difference niya will go to P&L or will be presented in profit or loss as either gain or loss on reclassification. Okay? So yan. So ito ngayon yung sinasabi natin kanina, okay? Kapag nagkaroon tayo ng decrease in ownership, then magiging part siya ng financial asset under PFRS 9. Kapag naman nagkaroon tayo ng increase at tayo ay nagkaroon na ng control over that entity, then subsidiary na yan, then we are going to account that under PFRS 3 and PFRS 10. Okay, so yan yung sinasabi ko kanina. Okay. So, question now, paano kapag meron tayong mga items, okay, na nandoon sa OCI? Okay? So, it says here, if an investor loses significant influence over an associate, all items that are recognized in other comprehensive income in relation to the associate shall be accounted on the same basis as would be required if the associate had already or had directly disposed of the related asset or liability. Okay. So, ibig sabihin, ganito yun. Yung laman kasi ng OCI natin, hindi pa kasi natin to na-discuss in detail, no? Pero kasi yung laman ng OCI natin, meron yung mga items na hindi pwedeng i-recycle at meron din yung mga items na pwedeng i-recycle. Pag sinabi nating hindi pwedeng i-recycle, ibig sabihin, hindi natin siya pwedeng ilipat from OCI papuntang P&L. Okay? Pag sinabi naman nating pwedeng i-recycle, yan yung galing sa OCI, pwede mo siyang ilipat ng P&L. So basically, ang sinasabi lang dito, yung mga items na na-accumulate mo sa OCI, okay, na ang tawag dito, kailangan na nating tanggalin kasi nga yan ay ang tawag dito, yan ay matatanggal na rin natin kasi wala na nga tayong significant influence over the associate. So basically, ganito lang yan. Lahat ng items that cannot be recycled, ipasok mo na sa retained earnings. Doon mo i-close. Okay? Tapos lahat ng mga items na pwedeng i-recycle, ilagay mo naman sa P&L. Either gain siya or loss. Okay? So yun yung mga items dyan. Okay. So next, punta naman tayo doon sa tinatawag nating step acquisition or yung concept ng pag-gain natin ng significant influence. So anong concept ng step acquisition? Yung step acquisition, yan yung sinasabi natin na paunti-unti kang nag-iipon ng shares hanggang umabot ka doon sa point na meron ka ng significant influence. Okay? So parang ang labas niyan, nag-jump ka from IFRS 9 papuntang PAS 28. Okay? So, ito yung sinasabi dito. Okay, so significant influence may be achieved from additional purchase of shares resulting to an increase in ownership interest. Okay? Although not specifically addressed in PAS 28, this type of acquisition may be accounted for by reference to PFRS 3 business combination, particularly on the accounting for business combination achieved in stages. Okay? So with that, ang sabi kasi doon, in a business combination achieved in stages, the acquirer shall remeasure its previously held equity interest in the acquiree at its acquisition date fair value and recognize the resulting gain or loss, if any, in profit or loss or other comprehensive income as appropriate. Okay? So basically, ang ibig lang sabihin yan, ganito. Kapag step acquisition yan, or ibig sabihin nagkaroon tayo ng paunti-unting pagbili ng shares or ng voting rights doon sa isang doon sa isang entity, ang mangyayari dyan, kapag dumating ka na doon sa point na magiging associate mo na siya, kasi significant na yung ownership interest mo, ganito lang gagawin mo. Number 1, yung lumang or yung mga old na hawak mo, okay? Or yung mga old na hawak mo before ka magkaroon ng significant influence, okay, i-remeasure mo siya at fair value. Okay? So, yun ang gagawin mo doon. Pangalawa, yung additional shares na nabili mo or yung additional shares na na-acquire mo, ang gagawin mo naman doon, i-recognize mo siya at cost. So, basically, ganun lang yun. Tapos, pag-add mo yung dalawang yun, yun na yung magiging total cost ng associate mo. Meron din tayong sample dyan sa baba later on. Okay? Yun. So, yan yung consideration natin later on. Tapos, punta na tayo dun sa share in losses of the associate. Okay. So ano naman ang concept niyan? O di ba? Sinabi natin kanina kapag kumikita yung associate, syempre nag-i-increase yung value ng ating investment. Kapag naman nalulugi or hindi ko nagkakaroon ng loss yung ating associate, kailangan nating i-recognize din yung losses. Okay? Pero may limitation yan. As provided by the standard, if an investor share in losses of the associate equals or exceeds its interest in the associate, meaning yung laman yung total na interest natin sa associate, the investor discontinues recognizing its share of further losses. In other words, hindi na tayo maggagawa ng journal entry, i-disclose na lang natin yan. So, ang question, ano ba yung laman ng interest in associate? Okay? So, ang total interest natin sa isang associate ay ito. Una, yung investment natin in associate mismo, yung naka-recognize at equity method. Pangalawa, yung investment in preference shares, kung meron man tayong hawak na doon. Tapos, any unsecured long-term receivables or loans. Pag meron man tayong hawak na unsecured long-term, take note na unsecured dapat. Okay? Kasi kung secured yan, hindi mo na kailangan gawan pa ng interest yan kasi anyway, sa'yo din naman mapupunta yung kung ano man yung naka-collateralize doon. Okay? So kung unsecured yan, ibig sabihin pwedeng ikaw yung mag-bear ng loss later on kapag hindi mo natanggap, 'di ba? So ibig sabihin kasama yan sa interest mo. So, yung mga unsecured long-term receivables or loans natin, kasama yan sa interest. So ang gagawin mo later on, kung meron man itong tatlong ito doon sa nahawak mo, doon sa associate, then pag-adin mo lahat yung tatlong yan, tapos kapag nagkakaroon ka ng losses, okay, so ang gagawin mo, ibabawas mo dito. So, paano ka magbabawas? Siyempre, ubusin mo muna to. Kapag naubos na to, dito mo naman ibawas. Kapag naubos na ulit to, dito mo ibawas. Kapag ubos na lahat, wala na talaga, doon ka magsa-stop sa pag-recognize ng losses, tapos recognize mo na lang as a disclosure yung mga unabsorbed na losses. Okay, so yun. Tapos, take note, hindi kasama doon sa ating interest sa associate yung mga trade receivables and payables at saka yung mga secured long-term receivables or loans. Just like what I said, ito kasi ordinary course of business, so hindi yan kasama sa interest in associate. Ito naman, secured kasi siya. So, ibig sabihin, kahit anong mangyari, may mababawi ka. Okay, so hindi mo siya kailangang i-recognize as a separate interest in the associate. Okay? In other words kasi, ikaw din ang magki-claim later on nung security or yung collateral in relation to this particular loan. Okay? Yan. So, next tayo. Bago tayo magsagot ng theory questions. After the investor's interest in the associate is reduced to zero, additional losses are provided for and a liability is recognized only to the extent that the investor has incurred the following items. Okay, explain natin to. Di ba sinabi natin kanina, ito lang talaga yung interest mo. Okay, ito lang hindi kasama to. So dito mo kukunin yung mga pang-absorb ng losses. Okay, so pag nag-zero out na to, dapat tapos na. Okay, kaso ang sinasabi ng standard, what if ubos ka na nga, zero na nga to, ikaw ay nag-accommodate pa ng mga utang on behalf of the associate. So kapag ikaw ay nag-accommodate ng utang on behalf of the associate, okay, na separate pa sa mga ito, yun pwede mo pa siyang i-recognize as additional liabilities or additional expenses. Okay? At yung mga yon, only to the extent daw na ikaw ay may ginastos na ganito. Yung letter A at saka letter B. Okay? So kapag ikaw ay nag-incur ng legal or constructive obligation, okay, on behalf of the associate, or kapag ikaw ay nagbayad, okay, or made payments on behalf of the associate, yan ay additional na pwede mong i-recognize as expense. Okay, so in other words, parang ang bait-bait mo na, nalugi na nga yung associate, tapos ito pa, ikaw pa yung nagbayad at nag-incur ng liability on behalf of the associate. Ito, pwede mo pa siyang i-recognize as additional losses. Okay? Na separate dito sa tatlong to. Okay, may example tayo dyan mamaya. Okay? Tapos take note, any other losses are not recognized pag hindi na siya in relation to letter A and letter B. Okay? At naubos na lahat ng mga interest mo sa ating associate. Tapos, if the associate subsequently reports profits, okay, so ibig sabihin, paano kapag naka-recover na yung associates? Ano naman ang gagawin mo? Kapag naka-recover na at nag-recognize na siya ng profit, ano gagawin mo? The investor resumes recognizing its share in the profits only after its share in the profit equals the share of losses not recognized. Okay? So, in other words, ang mangyayari dyan, bago ka mag-recognize ng profits, bawiin mo muna lahat ng mga hindi mo na-recognize na losses. Okay? So, parang ganito yan. So, para mas maintindihan natin, gawa tayo example dito. Okay? So, kung kunyari magpa-plot tayo, so basically, ito yung profit area natin. Huwag mo nang pansinin yung y-axis yung x-axis na lang. Ano ba yan? So, ito yung profit area, ito yung loss area. Okay? So basically, syempre ito yung 0, di ba? Itong point na to, ito yung point 0. So ibig sabihin, dito sa point na to, wala ka na talagang interest na may iwan kasi na-absorb na lahat. Okay? So ang gagawin mo ganito. Kapag may loss ka pa, sabihin natin, yan yung loss area natin. Lagyan natin siya ng red na area. Okay? So yan. So ang nangyari, dito yung point na may loss ka pa. Okay? Tapos, ang next na mangyayari, nagkaroon ng profit. Okay? So, kapag nagkaroon ng profit, yung ating, yung ating associate, hindi mo pwedeng i-recognize yung profit agad na makakapasok ka dito sa portion na to unless ma-recover mo muna yung mga hindi pa na-recognize na losses. Di ba kasi nga, pag umabot ka na sa 0, hindi ka na dito, hindi na mo na i-recognize yun. So unfair naman kapag hindi mo i-recognize. So gagawin mo, kapag nag-start ng magkaroon ng profit yung associate, ang gagawin mo, bago ka mag-recognize dito or bago ka mag-recognize ng amount beyond zero, okay, or above zero, kailangan mo munang mabawi or kailangan mo nang mabawi ng mga profits, okay, yung mga unrecognized losses. Ganun lang naman yan. So ganun lang kadali yan, ha. So para lang mag-gets natin. Okay, so yun yung mga consideration natin dyan. We are now going to proceed to the theory questions. So let us answer the theory questions of our topic. Okay, so we now go to number 1. Okay, so theory question number 1. The accounting method applied in investment in associates known as the equity method is also known as the letter D. One-line consolidation method. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Ibig sabihin, hindi natin kailangan gumawa or hindi natin kailangan i-consolidate yung ating financial statement with the associate na yung usual na pinoprovide ng PFRS 3 and PFRS 10. Ibig sabihin, ang gagawin mo lang dyan, yung lahat ng result ng operations ng ating associate, iipon lang natin or iipunin natin yan sa isang single account, which is yung investment in associate account. So kaya siya tinawag na one-line consolidation method. Okay, meaning sa isang account lang or sa isang line item lang natin ipapasok lahat yung ating items. Okay? So yun yung consideration natin dyan. Okay. Sige. So next question tayo. Okay. For the purposes of equity accounting for an investment in associate, it is presumed that the investor has significant influence over the other entity where the investor holds, diba? O tandaan mo yan, 20% or more. Okay? Kung medyo nalilito ka, pwede mong balikan din yung naaral nyo sa sa stockholders equity, yung tinatawag na large at saka small dividends. Diba? Kapag 20% or more, large na yon. Kapag less than 20%, small, okay, dividends yun. So parang ganun din yun, para hindi ka malito. So ibig sabihin, kapag 20% or more, you are now considered as a large stockholder, okay, or a significant stockholder. So ganun siya. So anyway, wag mo lang kakalimutan yung 20% or more of the voting power, ha. Tandaan, voting dapat. Next, the following are The following are regarded as factors indicating the existence of significant influence over another entity. So, meron ba yung representation in the board of directors? Yes. Participation in decision about dividends, pwede rin yun kasi decision making yun, di ba? So, yes din yun. Okay. Interchange of managerial personnel or key management personnel. So, yes din yun. Teka lang, ba't na-move down? Yan. Okay, tapos ability to control the investees operating policies, no yun. Okay, hindi natin pwedeng i-control. Pag may control, yun ay subsidiary na. So, ibig sabihin ang lalabas ay yes, 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 no. That is going to be letter D. Okay. Question number 4. Organization to which IAS 28 investment in associate applies includes, okay, so includes unincorporated entities, yes. Venture capital organizations, hindi. Kasi take note, yung ating IAS 28 will cover investment in associates and joint ventures. So kapag ikaw ay venture capital organizations, hindi yan necessarily joint venture. Pwedeng joint operations lang yan. Okay? So ibig sabihin, hindi natin pwedeng isama yung letter B unless we are sure that the joint venture capital organization or the venture capital organization is actually a joint venture talaga. So hindi. Mutual funds hindi rin. Okay, hindi yan mako-cover ng IAS 28 because mutual funds, okay, cannot and unit trust, pag samayan natin yung dalawang yan, does not necessarily indicate na meron tayong associate. Okay? Doon sa ating doon sa ating investee corporation. Okay. To explain further, ganito kasi yan. What if yung isang mutual fund organization bumili ng madaming shares nung isang investee corporation. Okay, so ang labas ngayon, edi madami na silang hawak, mga 20% or more, ganun. Or yung unit trust, ganun din. Pero ang problema kasi, yung mutual fund at saka yung unit trust, tandaan nyo, ito ay owned by madaming tao. 'Di ba? Parang pool of funds kasi yan. So ibig sabihin, kahit sabihin mong yung mutual fund or yung unit trust organization bumili ng malaking amount ng ng investment doon sa isang investee corporation, hindi pa rin siya pwedeng ma-recognize or hindi pa rin siya pwedeng ma-consider as an associate kasi yung mutual fund is owned by various entities and individuals na hindi pwedeng ma-consider or ma-account as an investment in associate. Okay? So yun yung consideration natin diyan. Okay? And this is actually provided by the standard na hindi i-apply ang provisions ng IAS 28. Okay? So meron yan doon sa ating hand item. Okay? So yan yan. Next, number 5. When goodwill is acquired by an investor on an associate, the amortization of goodwill is, ito, hindi naman na to bago sa atin. Of course, always remember that goodwill is an unidentifiable intangible asset that should never be amortized but rather be subjected only to impairment. So, hindi pwedeng ma-amortize ang goodwill. Okay? Not permitted yan. That is simply, that is simply subjected to impairment. Okay, so yun ang sagot dyan, not permitted. Number 6, okay, when disclosing information about investment in associate, IAS 28 requires separate disclosures of which of the following. Okay, so una, share in associate in the balance sheet. Okay, share of profit or loss of associate in the income statement. Share of any discontinuing operations in the statement of changes in equity. Okay. Share of changes recognized directly in the associate's equity in the statement of changes in equity. Okay. So, these are just items na naka-indicate doon sa ating disclosure requirements for IAS 28. So, the answer here is letter A, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, again, just like what I said, kapag disclosure man ang lumabas sa board examination, tas hindi mo nasagot, kung na yan, ang dahilan lang dyan ay hindi mo nabasa ng buo yung standard. So, wala tayong magagawa dyan. Kung kunyari, yun na nga lang yung lumabas. Although, on my part, syempre, unfair nga yun, di ba? Bakit disclosure ang itatanong? Hindi naman talaga yun measurement ng talino ng estudyante. Okay, measurement lang yun ng paggaling sa pag-memorize, no? So, sana wag lumabas yung mga disclosure requirements. Not unless crucial disclosure or yun talaga yung pinakalaman ng topic na yun. Okay, so anyway, itong 1, 2, 3, 4, these are simply disclosures provided by the standard itself. So letter A yung answer dyan. Number 7, adjustments made for the purpose of calculating the incremental adjustment to the share of profit of an associate are. Okay, so ano yan? Yan yung ang tawag dito, yung mga fair value adjustments. Okay? So, ang sagot ay letter C, notional adjustment and not included in the books of the investor. Okay? So, letter C ang answer natin dyan. Okay. So, yan ay letter C. Okay? Next. Number 8, which of the following statements best describe the term significant influence? Okay? So, syempre, ano ba yung nakalagay sa definition natin? Ang sagot ay letter C. The power to participate in the financial and operating policy decisions of an entity. So, letter C. Okay. Number 9, which of the following or which statement is incorrect concerning the equity method? Okay. Ang sagot dyan ay letter C. Okay. So, tingnan natin kung bakit incorrect siya. Yung letter A, the investment in associate is initially recorded at cost. Tama yun. Letter B, the investment in associate is increased or decreased by the investor share in profit or loss. Tama din yun. Letter C, the investor share of the profit or loss of the investee is not recognized in the investor's profit or loss. Saan mo i-recognize? O di mali na yun. Okay? Letter C yan. Okay? Tapos, distributions received from the investee reduces the carrying amount of the investment. Tama lang yan. Yan yung kapag nakatanggap ka ng dividends or other types of profit share distributions. Number 10, an investor shall discontinue the use of the equity method from the date that, number 1, the investor ceases to have significant influence. Ibig sabihin, bumaba yung voting power mo. Letter B, the associate operates under a severe long-term restriction that significantly impair its ability to transfer funds to the investor. Okay? Ang tanong, naapektuhan ba yung ownership or yung voting power ng investor? Ang sagot ay hindi. Ibig sabihin, may significant influence pa rin ba? Yes. So therefore, associate mo pa rin siya dito. Pero yung sa number 1, itong statement 1 na to, wala ka ng significant influence. So, letter A ang sagot natin. Okay? So, di ba ang concept lang naman dyan, dun sa diniscuss natin kanina, magkakaroon lang tayo ng tawag dito, departure to the use of the equity method kung either number 1, hindi mo na siya associate kasi bumaba yung ownership mo, or number 2, hindi mo na siya associate kasi tumaas ang ownership mo at ikaw ay subsidiary mo na siya. Okay? So, yun yan. So, yun yung answer sa number 10, letter A. Okay, number 11. If under the equity method, an investor share of losses of an associate equals or exceeds the carrying amount of the investment, which of the following is not correct? O, di ba, ano na ulit yung concept? Kapag nag-zero out na yung share natin sa invest or yung share natin doon sa, ang tawag dito, sa losses ng associate, ang gagawin natin, i-disclose na lang natin yon at babawiin sa mga succeeding profits. Okay, so ang sagot ay letter C. If the associate subsequently reports profits, okay, the investor resumes its share of those profits without regard to the share on the net loss not previously recognized. Take note, not correct ang hinahanap sa atin, ha? Okay. Yung letter C kasi ang sinabi, bayaan mo daw kahit daw hindi mo na i-recover yung loss. Diretsong profit daw agad. Mali yun. Okay? So, yun yan. Kasi yung letter A, sinabi, the investor ordinarily discontinues its share of further losses. So, tama lang yun. Letter B, additional losses are provided kapag meron tayong mga na-incur na expenses or losses on behalf of the investee. Tama lang yun. Letter D, the investment is reported as zero. Tama din lang yan. So, ang mali is yung letter C. Okay. Number 12, under the equity method, an investor recognizes its share in the earnings in the period where, okay, kailan ka mag-recognize ng earnings? Kung kailan ni-record or ni-report yung earnings. Okay? So, yun lang naman ang gagawin natin doon. Kung kailan na-report, edi recognize mo na during that period. Okay? Pero yung dividends, kung kailan nabayaran yung dividend. Okay? So, yun. 13. When an investor purchases sufficient ordinary shares to gain significant influence over the investee, what is the proper accounting treatment of any excess of cost over book value acquired? Okay? So, ang tanong dyan, paano daw yung may excess? Okay? So, explain lang natin yan. Gawa tayo ng isa pang, dito na nga lang. Okay? So, ganito kasi yung concept niyan, no? O, diba? Ang gagawin natin, kunin mo muna yung cost. Okay? So, yung cost natin, recognize mo dito. Ang next mong gagawin dyan, kukunin mo yung book value of net assets acquired. Okay? Babawas natin yon. Ang lalabas dito, may lalabas na excess. Okay? Lagyan natin ng linya para hindi nakakalito. Yan, okay. So, lakihan ko to para less. Okay? So, kunin mo yung cost, magkano mo nagastos or magkano yung binayad mo para ma-acquire mo yung particular investment na yon. Next, ibawas mo yung book value of net assets acquired or magkano yung book value nung in-acquire mo. Okay, yung difference niyan, excess. Okay? Malamang, excess nga yun, di ba? Sumobra. Okay? Kapag may excess, ang gagawin mo, i-determine mo muna kung ano yung cost of excess. Okay? Cost of excess. Okay. Kapag yung cost ng excess ay, kunyari, undervaluation, UV na lang. Undervaluation of asset. Okay? Ang gagawin mo doon, ibabawas mo. So, gagawin mo dito, less. So, lagay na lang natin. Less undervaluation of assets. Tapos, kapag may overvaluation naman, add overvaluation of asset. Okay. So, again kapag merong undervaluation, ibabawas yon. Tapos kapag may overvaluation, idadagdag naman yon. Okay? Kapag meron pang naiwan, okay, kung ano man yung lalabas dyan after consideration, this is going to be goodwill or gain. Okay? Depende kung ano yung lalabas. Kung may naiwan pa, goodwill na yon. Kapag meron pang sobra, or kapag nag-negative na siya, ibig sabihin gain na yan. So in other words, may gain ka kasi mas konti yung nagastos mo kaysa dun sa na-acquire mo. So ngayon, considering these items na pinrovide ko, kapag liability naman ang pinag-uusapan, yung undervaluation of your liability will now be added. Tapos yung overvaluation naman ng liability will now be deducted. Okay, so yun lang yung kailangan mong tandaan dyan. So medyo ito lang yung computation talaga na kailangan nating i-consider. Okay, so yan yun. Sige, so anyway, ano ang gagawin natin dito sa number 13? Okay, so sinabi, the excess remains in the investment account until it is sold. This is wrong. The excess is immediately expensed in the period in which the investment is made. Wrong ulit yan. Kasi kailangan mo ang i-determine kung anong dahilan kung bakit may excess, di ba? So ang sagot ay letter C, the excess is amortized over the time period that is reasonable in the light of the underlying cost of the excess. Okay? Letter D, the excess is charged to retained earnings. Mali din yan. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, letter C, sundan mo kung ano yung dahilan kung bakit siya may excess, tapos i-recognize mo siya properly over the period na kailangan mo siyang i-recognize. Okay? So, parang ganito yun. Kung ito ay outright na kailangan mo nang i-adjust immediately during the next period, edi recognize mo ng buo. Kung over 10 years pa siya, edi over 10 years din. Syempre, yung goodwill, just like what we discussed, kung goodwill yan, hindi mo siya i-amortize. Hintayin mo lang na ma-impair. Kung ma-impair, edi tanggalin mo. Pero kung hindi siya ma-impair, edi walang tatanggalin. Okay? Pero yung gain, o gain na ngayon, edi recognize mo na during the period na meron kang gain. Okay. Next tayo, number 14. At the beginning of the year, an investor acquires 30% of the ordinary shares of another entity in the current year. The investee has net earnings of 100 and paid dividends of 10,000. The investor mistakenly recorded these transactions using the cost method instead of the equity method. So, ibig sabihin, naka-recognize lang yung investment at cost. So, hindi natin ginagawa yung pagkuha ng 30% nito at pag 30% nito. Okay? Kasi naka-cost ka lang. So, kapag cost method, ang ginagawa mo, yung dividend lang ang i-recognize mong income. So, the question there is, what effect would this have on an investment account, net earnings, and retained earnings, respectively? So, una, yung investment account natin, ang mangyayari dyan, understated na yan. Bakit siya understated? Kasi hindi mo ni-recognize yung 30% dito eh. Diba? Kung kunin mo yung 30% nito, dapat 30,000 sana yung increase, tapos minus 10. So, ang labas ngayon dyan, dapat may 20,000 increase yung ating investment. Pero dahil hindi ka gumamit ng equity method, understated yun. Anong mangyayari sa earnings mo? Yung earnings natin will be understated din kasi instead na 30,000 yung papasok na earnings, 10,000 lang yung na-recognize mong earnings. So, kulang ka ng 20. Ganun din yung retained earnings kasi yung effect niya sa ating net earnings, yun din yung effect niya sa retained earnings during the period. So, understated din. So, letter D. Okay. 15. On January 1 of the current year, an entity purchased 10% of another entity's ordinary shares. The entity purchased additional shares up to 40%. Okay. Okay. So, anyway, ano daw ang nangyari? 10% siya, tapos the entity purchased additional shares bringing its ownership up to 40% of the investee's additional the ordinary shares outstanding on August 1 of the current year. During October of the current year, the investee declared and paid cash dividend on all its outstanding ordinary shares. How much income from the investment should the entity report for the current year? Okay. So 10% of the investee's income from January to July plus 40% of the income from mali itong sagot na to. Hindi ito. Ang sagot ay 40% of the investee's income from, kailan nagkaroon ng significant influence? August, no? Ito dapat ang sagot. Sorry, mali yung na lagay kong answer. Yan. Kasi ang concept niyan, prospective lang ang treatment natin sa equity method. So kapag nagkaroon ng step acquisition, saka ka lang mag-recognize ng income from associate kapag nagkaroon ka na ng significant influence. Saka ka lang nagkaroon ng significant influence noong August lang. So, ibig sabihin, may right ka lang over the income of the associate nung naging associate mo na siya. Okay, so ibig sabihin, letter B. Okay. 16. This distinguishes an investment in associate from other types of investment. Ano ulit ang sagot natin dyan? Presence of significant influence. Okay? Again, presumptive, presumptive basis lang natin yung 20%, hindi talaga yan yung totoong basis natin. Significant influence pa rin. Okay? So, just like what we stated, number 17, okay, presume to exist ang significant influence kapag may 20% or more. So, that's letter B. Okay? So, number 18, ano ang sagot natin dyan? Significant influence cannot be inferred from the presence of potential voting rights. Di ba sinabi natin kahit potential pwedeng magamit? Letter B is presumed to exist if ownership interest is at least 10%. Mali din yan. Letter C cannot be obtained from ownership of preference shares. Tama. Okay, so letter C ang sagot natin dyan. Letter D can only be obtained from ownership of an incorporated entity. Mali na. Diba sabi nga natin kahit unincorporated pwede pa rin. So 18 is going to be letter C. 19, potential voting rights that are currently exercisable are considered when determining existence of significant influence. Yes. Are ignored when computing the share in the profit or loss of the associate. Yes. Diba sinabi natin kanina, kung ang pinag-uusapan lang ay determination kung may significant influence ka, kasama siya. Pero kung nagko-compute ka na ng profit or loss of the associate, yung existing lang ang basis mo. Okay? Tapos letter C, may give rise to significant influence when actually exercised. Yes din yun. So letter D ang sagot natin. 20. When computing for each share in the associate's profit or loss, the investor uses, okay, so ano ulit? Present and potential ba? Present lang. Letter A. Next, number 21, under the equity method, the investment in associate is initially recognized at cost. Alam mo na yan. Next, 22. Which of the following may be used to compute for the ending balance of an investment in associate account? Okay. So, check lang natin purchase price, syempre idadagdag mo yon. Share in total comprehensive income, meaning kasama yung PNL at saka OCI, dagdag mo yon. Kapag may na-receive na dividends, bawas mo yon. Okay. Okay. Kapag meron tayong amortization or depreciation of undervaluation of assets, yun ay magiging deduction. Okay, tama lang yan. So, ang sagot ay letter C. Okay, kasi ito yung adjustment natin eh. Itong item na to, ito yung nakalagay dito sa ating present kanina na yung mga undervaluation or overvaluation. Kapag undervaluation kasi, i-amortize natin later on, okay, during the periods na makaka-affect. So, magiging adjustment din siya dun sa ating investment account. Okay, so meaning, tama lang yan. So, letter C ang sagot. 23, for an investment accounted for under the equity method, the investment income recognized in profit or loss for the year may be computed as shared profit or loss. Wrong. Ito dapat yan. Mali ulit yung napindot ko kanina na ito. Ito dapat ang sagot. So, ito ay wala dapat color. Okay. So, ang sagot sa number 23 is letter C. Kasi kapag may share ka in profit or loss, okay, kapag undervalued yung asset mo, ibig sabihin kulang yung depreciation. So, kung kulang yung depreciation or amortization, then kailangan mo pang dagdagan. So, in that case, kapag may share ka in profit or loss of the associate, ibawas mo naman yung kulang pa or yung hindi pa na amortize or na depreciate. May ganyan din tayong example dun sa baba later on. So, letter C ang sagot dyan. 24, when the associate has outstanding cumulative preference shares, the investor computes for each share in the associate's profit. Anong sabi? Cumulative preference shares. Anong sinabi natin kanina? Kapag cumulative, ibawas mo yung preference dividends whether declared or not. Okay, so ang sagot ay letter A. After deducting 1-year dividend on the cumulative shares whether declared or not. Okay? 25, the equity method is not applicable in all of the following cases except. Okay. So letter A, kapag held for sale yan, 'di ba sinabi ko na kanina, kapag held for sale yan is either trading securities yan or held for sale as normal. So hindi yan kasama sa ating ang tawag dito, hindi siya kasama sa ating investment in associate. Yung letter C, when the investment is acquired with the exclusive view of sale within 1 year, so ibebenta mo din pala, hindi mo siya, wala kang balak mag-exercise ng significant influence, so hindi rin pwedeng maging investment in associate. Letter D, when the investment is classified as interest in joint operation. Di ba kapag joint operation, take note joint venture yung kasama sa IAS 28 So kapag joint operation, hindi ka pwedeng gumamit ng equity method. So ito, when the investment significantly impairs the ability of the investee to transfer funds, yung sinabi natin kanina, funds lang yung hindi matatransfer. Pero yung significant influence meron pa rin. So ibig sabihin, pwede mo pa rin gamitin yung equity method. Okay? So yan yung answer natin sa theory questions. Okay, sige. So let's start with question number 1. So Gunawan Limited acquired 20% share in Juliano Limited for 18,000. Okay, so basically yun na yung amount na i-recognize natin doon sa cost ng ating investment. So this is going to be 18,000. Okay, Gunawan Limited has no other investments. At the date on which it became an associate, Juliano Limited had the following equity items. So we have 50 at saka 40. So ang gagawin natin, kung maglalabas tayo ng calculator dyan, para lang ma-check natin kung magkano ba talaga yung book value. Okay? So ang gagawin natin dyan will be 50,000 plus 40,000. Actually, 90,000 talaga yan. Sinigurado ko lang. Okay, times 20%. So 0.2. So that's 18,000. So ibig sabihin, yung binili natin or yung amount na binayad natin is equivalent to the book value. Okay? So kung babalikan natin yung topic natin kanina, yung dito sa computation natin, ay saan na yan? Dito, yung cost natin is 18,000. Yung book value of net assets acquired, 18,000 din. So ibig sabihin, kung ibawas natin ito, zero na to. So wala tayong excess. So wala na tayong ibang gagawin dito sa baba. Okay? So yun lang naman yung ibig natin sabihin dyan. So anyway, tuloy natin. Next, sinabi, at the end of the financial year, okay, following the investment, Juliano Limited generated profit of 6,000. Okay? Tapos, ano daw ang magiging carrying amount ng investment? 'Di ba? 6,000 yung profit ni investee. Okay? Atin yung 20%. So, ang gagawin natin doon, may share in income tayo. Kukunin natin yung 6,000, multiply natin ng 20%. That's going to be 1,200. Okay? Kung wala naman na tong share in loss, wala ring dividends na binigay, kunin mo agad yung ending, then that's simply going to be the beginning balance plus the share in the income. That's going to be 19,200. So, letter A na yung sagot natin dyan. 19,200. Okay? We go to question number 2. Campbell Limited acquired a 30% investment in Laura Limited for 21,000. Laura Limited declared and paid dividend of 5,000. Campbell Limited does not prepare consolidated financial statements. The appropriate entry for Campbell Limited to record this dividend is, okay, so this is a 30% investment, so that generally gives us an idea na ito ay associate na. Okay, so kung associate yan at nag-declare ng 5,000 na dividend. Okay? So if that's going to be 5,000 at sa atin yung 30% or 0.3, then that's going to be 1,500. Ano ulit ang ginagawa kapag may dividend? I-recognize mo yung cash, tapos ibawas mo doon sa investment in associate account natin. So ang sagot natin dyan will be letter B. Debit mo yung cash, credit ka ng investment in associate. Okay, so that's going to be our entry for number 2. Yung madadali muna to Number 3, Investor Limited acquired a 30% interest in Investee Limited for 27,000. Investor holds other equity investments but does not prepare consolidated financial statements. Investee Limited revalued its building class of asset by 10,000 during the current financial period. The balance of the investment in associate account at the end of the current period is, okay? So, basically, ito lang yung binigay, okay? Pagkatapos may revaluation na nangyari. Okay? So, anong mangyari ngayon dyan? So basically, if you look into that information at gawa ulit tayo ng parang ganito, okay? So ang mangyayari dyan will be like this. Ang beginning balance natin ay 27. Okay? Wala tayong share sa income, wala tayong share sa loss, pero meron tayong, di ba kapag may OCI, ibaba ko yung dividends ha? Okay? Di ba kapag meron tayong credit to OCI, dito yan. Tapos kapag may debit to OCI, dito naman yan. Eh di ba kapag meron tayong revaluation, yung revaluation is actually going to be an increase in the or i-credit to OCI na 10,000. Pero hindi sa atin yung 10,000 na buo kasi 30% lang sa atin dyan. So that's going to be basically 10,000 times 30%. So we only have 3,000. So ang papasok na ending balance natin will be ito plus ito. So ang lalabas ay 30,000. So ang sagot natin dito ay letter C, 30,000. Okay. Next, number 4. An investor company acquired 40% in an interest or in an associate for 30,000. The investor is part of a consolidated group. Okay, in the financial period immediately following the date on which it became an associate, the investee took the following actions. Nag-revalue. This kailan nangyari to? Immediately following the date it became an associate. So ibig sabihin these are subsequent to acquisition. So, revaluation, nagkaroon ng income, nag-declare ng dividend. Okay? So, ang tanong ngayon dyan, balance in the investors share in associate, okay, after equity accounting has been applied is okay. So, pag sinabing share in associate, ano yan? Or yung shares in associate, yan yung mismong investment in associate natin, ha? Okay, so ano gagawin natin? Consider muna natin yung first item. So, meron tayong 30,000 doon. So, dito ulit tayo maglalagay 30,000. Okay. Pagkatapos, nag-revalue ng asset to fair value by 5,000. So, kapag may revaluation, di itong 5,000 na to times 40% ulit. So, gagawin natin, that's going to be 5,000 times 40%. Okay, so that's going to be 2,000. Nag-generate ng profits na 16,000 sa atin yung 40% doon. So, dito yon. That's going to be 16,000 times 40%. So, 6,400 yon. Okay. Tapos, yung next, ang sinabi, declared a dividend. Take note, di ba? Sinabi natin, kailangan, before tayo gumawa ng journal entry, dun sa dividend, kailangan nagkaroon ng distribution mismo ng dividend. Okay? Na associated doon sa ating na galing sa investee para sa atin. So, since declared to, wala muna akong gagawin dito. So, ang lalabas na ending balance ko will be ito, plus ito, plus ito. Okay? 38,400. So, that's going to be letter B. Okay? So, take note kasi hindi ko hindi ko pwedeng i-recognize agad yung dividend na declared pa lang. Dapat paid siya. Okay? Yan. So, yung number 4 natin. Number 5, on January 1, 2012, Lloyda Company purchased 15% of Winter Company's common stock for 20,000. Huwag nyo munang pansinin ito kasi mali yung nailagay na ano dyan. So, mamaya natin lagyan. Okay? So, 20 million yon. The following data concerning Winter Company are available. Net income, pagkatapos cash dividend paid. Okay? In its income statement for the year ended December 31, how much should Lloyda report as income from this investment? Okay. So, 15% ownership, okay, does not give us does not give us the right to recognize it as an associate. Okay? Kasi wala namang binigay na additional information sa atin, 'di ba? Yung sinabi natin kanina yung permit sana. Kaso dun sa permit na 'yon, wala kahit anong binigay dun sa information ng problem, meaning hindi natin pwedeng sabihin na associate ni Lloyda si Vintar. So ano ngayon ang gagawin natin? Ang tinatanong yung 2013, so dito tayo mag-focus sa item na to. So for 2013, magkano daw i-record na income from this investment? So ang income lang na kukunin natin will be based on this particular dividend lang. Hindi natin papakialaman yung net income. Okay, so ang gagawin natin dyan, compute natin, that's going to be 15 million. Tapos multiply natin ng 15% or 0.15. So that's going to be 2250. So that's going to be letter A. So yan yung answer natin dyan. It's going to be letter A. Uy, ba't lahat naman? Yun lang. Okay, so yan yung item natin dyan. Okay, so yun na. Kasi parang since hindi naman siya associate, ang basis lang ng income natin for 2013 will be yung ating dividend income lang or yung dividend na makukuha. Okay. 16. On January 2011, Fatima Company acquired 25% of the outstanding common stock of Randy Company for 25 million. The book value of the acquired shares was 21 million. The excess of cost over book value was attributable to an identifiable intangible asset which was undervalued on Randy's balance sheet and which had an indefinite life. Okay? For the year ended December 31, 2011, Randy reported net income of 20 million and paid cash dividend of 6 million in its common stock and thereafter issued 10% stock dividend. What is the proper carrying value of the investment in the associate at December 31, 20x1? Okay? So basically, ang una natin gagawin, i-recognize muna natin yung nangyari dun sa ating investment. Okay? So, dito muna. Yan. So, sinabi, wait lang gawin ko lang siyang, yan. Ang sinabi, binili yung 25% for 25 million. So, this is going to be 25 million. Okay? Oops. Yan. Magkano daw yung book value of net assets acquired? Ang book value ay 21. So, this is going to be 21 million. So, may excess pa tayong 4 million. Ano daw yung excess? Yung excess daw ay galing sa undervalued asset na indefinite ang life. So, ibig sabihin, dito pala galing yun. So, 4 million. Diba? Ibabawas ito. So, ibig sabihin, ang lalabas dito sa ating item, diba ito yung excess, ibawas mo to. So, ibig sabihin, anong true? Minus. Okay, yan. So, ibig sabihin, walang goodwill, walang gain. Pero ito, this is attributable to intangible asset with indefinite life. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, anong mangyari dito? Walang problema. Ibig lang sabihin, ito ay yung dahilan kung bakit may excess. Ito pa rin yung i-recognize nating cost ng asset. Pagkatapos, ito, kapag nagkaroon lang ng kung sakaling impairment later on, saka lang natin i-adjust yung ating libro. Okay? So, yun yung consideration. So, anyway, pagpunta natin sa investment in associate, ang beginning pa rin natin ay 25 million. Okay? Pagkatapos, anong next na nangyari? Nag-report daw ng income na 20 million. Sa atin yung 25%. So, ang gagawin natin doon, yung sa share in income natin, that's going to be 20 million multiplied by 25%. So, atin yung 5 million doon. Pagkatapos, nagbayad ng dividend na 6 million, atin yung 25% doon. So, kung natin yung dividend dito, that's going to be 6 million times 25%. So, atin yan. So, wala na tong item na to. So, ang gagawin natin ngayon, that's going to be ito plus ito. Dagdag ko na nga sa formula para automatic yung adjustment. Yan. So, ang lalabas ay 28,500. Okay? Bakit siya may... Wait lang. Anong next na nangyari? And thereafter issued 10% stock dividend. Okay, mali lang yung nailagay ko. Hindi dapat 28,300 to. This is supposed to be 28,500. Okay, kasi ano to? Yun. So, wala namang sinabi kasi kung anong klaseng intangible asset yan. So, this is going to be... Oops, ano naman yan? 28,500. Okay, so yan yung answer natin sa question number 6. Okay, so ngayon, kung ang tawag dito, kung kunyari, itong identifiable intangible asset na to ay patent. Okay? Pero hindi pa kasi natin na-discuss yung intangible assets. Pero pag kunyari patent yan, pwedeng lumabas itong letter A kapag sinabi na patent siya. Kasi ang mangyayari dyan, ganito. Kung 4 million yon, pagkatapos yung identifiable intangible asset ay patent, ang maximum life lang nun ay 20 years. So, ibig sabihin, 200,000 ang ating i-recognize na depreciation or amortization dapat. So, magiging letter A ang sagot natin. Pero in this case kasi, wala namang sinabi kung anong klaseng identifiable intangible asset yan. Tapos indefinite yung life sinabi, so hindi naman natin pwedeng kontrahen. So, letter B pa rin ang sagot natin dyan. Okay, next tayo, number 7. On January 2, Charlotte Company purchased 10%. Ay, sorry, by the way. Anong effect nitong stock dividend na to? Wala lang. Di ba kapag stock dividend ang binigay, it is only going to be a memorandum entry which will result to an increase in the number of shares na hawak mo. Pagkatapos, magbabawasan lang yung per unit na cost ng ating investment. Pero wala talaga siyang dagdag or wala siyang effect doon sa ating investment in total. Kasi ang mangyari dyan, baka kasi iniisip mo, di ba 10% yan sir, di dapat naging 35 na to. Hindi Kasi kung 10% yan, lahat nabigyan ng 10%. So ibig sabihin, kung ano yung increase ng sayo, yun din yung increase ng ibang shareholder. So babalik ka pa rin sa 25%. So hindi magi-increase yan. Okay. So anyway, number 7 tayo. So 10% of Carissa Company's outstanding common shares for 20 million. Charlotte is the largest single shareholder in Carissa, and Charlotte's officers are majority of Carissa's board of directors. Carissa reported income of 10 million and paid dividends of 4 million in December 31 to detailed balance sheet. What amount should Charlotte report as investment in Carissa Company? So question, associate ba to? Ang sagot ay yes. Bakit? Sir, 10% lang naman, hindi pa dapat associate. Di ba take note, permit yon. So hindi necessarily kailangan laging may 20%. Basta meron yung any item doon sa permit na diniscuss natin kanina, which is basically yung board of directors, di ba? Meron daw doon. Okay, majority pa. So, ibig sabihin ng labasan, may participation talaga tayo doon sa board of directors. Okay? Or doon sa management natin. So, ibig sabihin, this is going to be an associate even if there is only 10% interest there. So, ang tanong ngayon dyan, ano yung amount? So, ang gagawin muna natin, i-plot natin yung mga information. So, 20 million daw yung ating beginning. Kulang. Okay. Pagkatapos, nag-report ng net income na 10 million. So, that's going to be 1 million na lang. Diretso ko na kasi 10 million times 10% is 1 million. Tapos, nagbayad ng dividends na 4 million, sa atin yung 400,000 doon. 10%. Okay? So, ang lalabas ay 20,600,000. So, that's going to be So, that's going to be letter C. Okay. Number 8 tayo. July 1, Lewis Company purchased 40% of the outstanding common stock of Jenny Company for 50 million. On this date, the net assets were 100,000, which approximate their fair values, except for land whose fair value exceeds its carrying amount by 15 million. And implied goodwill has a useful life of 5 years. Pero syempre, ang goodwill ay hindi naman talaga ina-amortize. Net income was 25, maximum amount which could be included in the income before tax to reflect equity in earnings is okay. So anyway, compute lang muna natin. So gawa lang muna tayo nung ganito. Compute muna natin yung ating item dito. Binili daw natin siya 50 million. Tapos in this case, the net assets were 100, which approximate fair value. So basically, ito muna yung book value natin. So that's going to be 100 million times 40%. Kasi 40% yung in-acquire natin. So that's going to be 40 million. So may excess tayo. Tapos, except for land whose fair value exceeds its carrying amount by 15 million. So, ibig sabihin, 15 million daw yung excess ng ating, tawag dito, nung excess ng land. So, ibig sabihin, merong undervaluation ng land. Okay? So, ang undervaluation ng land dito, so ito yung land ha, land naman ngayon ang pinag-uusapan dito, that's going to be 15 million. Pero hindi sa atin lahat yan ha, kasi 40% lang ang sa atin. So, yan yan. So, ibig sabihin, kulang. Yan. So, 6 million yung sa atin, may goodwill pa na for, tawag dito, 4 million. So, ibig sabihin, goodwill yan, so hindi naman yan marereflect sa ating income statement. Okay? Pagkatapos, punta na tayo ngayon dito, therefore, magkano yung cost natin? 50 million, di ba? Okay. Magkano yung share in net income? Sinabi, net income is 25 million. So, that's going to be 25 million times 40%. So, yan yung share natin sa net income. Tapos, may dineclare bang dividend? Wala. Okay, so ibig sabihin, yan na yun. So, ang tanong ngayon, ano yung pwedeng walang dividend, delete ko to. Okay, so ibig sabihin ngayon, ano yung papasok lang? Ito. Okay, 10 million lang. Wala tayong ibang pwedeng i-recognize na other amounts. Okay, kasi hindi natin pwedeng i-recognize yung sinasabi nito. Kasi baka iniisip mo, gagawin mo, may goodwill na 4 million tapos 5 years. So, dapat magbabawas ako ng, ang tawag dito, ng 800,000. So, dapat magiging 9.2. Hindi pwede. Okay, so ang sagot lang natin is itong letter A lang. Okay, so yan na yung, lagi siyang ganun. Yan, okay, so yan na yung sagot natin dyan. So, that's going to be 10 million, which is in relation to our share in the net income. Again, wala tayong gagawin doon sa goodwill. Hindi natin siya i-amortize ng 5 years. Kahit sabihin pa tong information na to, kasi hindi nga ina-amortize ang goodwill. Okay? It will only be recognized as an expense kung may kung may impairment. Sorry. Okay, so yan yung sagot natin sa number 8. 9. Kulas company bought 20% of Emong Corporation's common stock on January 1 for 20 million. Carrying amount of the net assets is 60 million. Fair value and carrying amounts were the same for all items except for plant and inventory, for which fair values exceed their carrying amount by 15 and 5 respectively. So, ibig sabihin mga understatement lahat ng mga to. Yung plant asset daw ay 5-year ang life. All inventory was sold during 2012. Goodwill has indefinite life. Nag-report ng net income na 40 and paid a 15 million cash dividend. Magkano daw i-report na investment income for 2012? Okay, so bago natin gawin yan, balik muna tayo ulit dun sa ating pagko-compute ng ganito. Oops, sorry. Magkano yung cost ulit natin? Binili daw natin yung 20% for 20 million. Okay. Magkano yung book value of net assets acquired? Kunin lang natin yung 60 million, multiply natin ng 20%. So, that's going to be times 20%. So, that's going to be 12 million. May excess tayo na, ang tawag dito, 8 million. Yung excess natin ngayon na yan, dalawa ang source niyan. Okay? So, yung unang asset na undervalued is yung, anong sinabi doon? Undervalued yung plant asset at saka inventory. So, ilagay na lang natin dito PPE. Tapos, yung ito, inventory. Okay? So, yung una daw, yung PPE ay undervalued ng 15 million. Hindi atin lahat yung buong 15 na, yung 20% lang. So, that's going to be 15 million times, ang tawag dito, 20%. Tapos, yung inventory, 5 million daw. So, that's going to be 5 million, 20% lang sa atin dyan. Okay, so yan lahat yun. So, ibig sabihin, ang maging goodwill natin ngayon dito will be yung ating difference, which is basically 8 million minus, mali yung total. So 4 million yung ating goodwill. Pero definite naman yung life, so walang problema dyan. Okay? So gawin muna natin yung initial item natin dito. Magkano ulit natin binili? 20 million. Okay. So ngayon, dito tayo magkaka-issue dun sa share in net income. Kasi yung share in net income natin, hindi lang yan pwedeng basta-basta i-compute lang natin based on the net income na 40 million dito. Okay? So gagawa tayo ng separate na computation. So for us to understand, gawa tayo ng computation. This is going to be either total approach or yung sa sa associate lang or yung share in associate lang. Okay? So ito muna yung gawin ko muna. Ayusin ko lang to. Okay. So ito yung under total, ito yung sa share lang, share in associate lang. Okay. So punta muna tayo sa net income. Okay. Yung net income ni associate in total is 40 million. Okay, wait, i-plot ko lang ng maayos para hindi nakakalito. Okay. Pagkatapos, kung share in associate lang ang pinag-uusapan natin dito at 20% lang ang ownership natin dito, then ang share in net income lang natin will be ito multiplied by 20%. Okay. Yan. So ngayon, yan yung mga items natin. Kunin natin yung mga adjustments natin. Okay? Yung first adjustment natin will be yung sa PPE. Okay? Sinabi kasi yung PPE daw, yan ay undervalued ng 15 million at may 5-year life. So ibig sabihin kung 15 million yon at may useful life siya na 5 years pang remaining, kailangan pa nating magbawas, okay, ng 3 million. So this is going to be less, wait, lagyan lang natin para alam natin, less, okay, PPE depreciation. Okay, yan na lang. So, kasi kulang pa ng 3 million yung depreciation natin. Bakit kulang ng 3 million yung depreciation? Kasi nga, di ba, ang nangyari, understated ng 15 million. So, kung i-depreciate natin siya, kulang ng 3 million. Kung share in associate lang ang pinag-uusapan natin, then, ang kukunin mo lang dyan will be ito, times yung ating 20% lang. Okay? Kasi yun lang yung share natin. Okay? Ano pa yung problema? 'Di ba sinabi, yung inventory daw ay understated ng 5 million. Okay, so kung understated ng 5 million yan, ibig sabihin kulang din yung cost of sales. Kung kulang yung cost of sales, sobra ang net income. So ibig sabihin, kailangan din natin gumawa pa ng isa dito, less naman yung sa inventory. Okay? Inventory, ang result nito will be yung cost of sales understatement. Okay? So magkano yon? Yung buo na, 5 million. Ang sa atin lang dito, kung 20% lang ang ownership natin, will be this one multiplied by 20%. Okay? So yan yan. So ngayon, ang lalabas dyan will be yung adjusted net income natin. Ang adjusted net income natin ngayon will be equal to ito, minus ito, minus ito. Okay? Kung ang pinag-uusapan natin yung sa associate lang, then that's going to be ito, minus ito, minus ito. So, meron tayong 6.4 dito. So, ngayon, ang tinatanong, magkano yung amount na i-report as income? Yun na yun, 6.4 na yung sagot dun. Okay? So, ito na yun. So, pag ililipat natin ngayon dito, 6.4 to. Yun. So, 26,400 ang ending balance ng ating investment in associate because of the result of the operations here. So, take note, ang mangyayari, i-adjust mo yung initial na net income mo doon sa mga adjustments based on understatement or overstatement. Okay? Yan. 10 tayo. Tom Company purchased 15% of Jerry Company's 500,000 outstanding shares of common stock on January 2 for 15 million. On December 31, Tom purchased additional 125 of 435 million. There was no goodwill as a result during 2012. Jerry reported earnings of 20 million. Tapos, what amount should Tom report for his December 31 balance sheet as investment in Jerry Company? Okay, so basically, Nag-start tayo sa 15% for 15 million. Tapos bumili ka ng 125 for 35 million. Tapos nag-report ng earnings ng 2012. Okay, so basically, ito ngayon ang concern natin dyan. Nung December 31, saka ka lang bumili ng additional na 35. So ibig sabihin, kung nagkaroon ng earnings na 20 million, meron ka bang right to receive any portion of the 20 million kung December 31 ka bumili? Ang sagot ay wala. So therefore, kung magko-compute tayo dyan at magko-compute tayo kung magkano yung ating investment in associate. Yes, associate muna siya kasi 15, yung original doon, yung 15, yun yung sa 500 outstanding ordinary shares, ay 500,000, okay? So, that's 15%. Pagkatapos, pag bumili ka ng additional na 125, so madagdagan nga. So, pwedeng maging associate mo na yun. Or maging associate na. Okay? So, basically, ganito yun, no? To explain further. Labas lang yung calcu. 15% muna, so that's going to be, kung 500,000 yon, multiply natin ng 15%, so meron kang hawak na 75,000 shares. Okay? 75 yon, tapos bumili ka pa ng additional na 125. So 75 plus 125, so magiging 200,000 na yung hawak mo. Okay? So pag 200,000 na yung hawak mo, then you are already going to receive, or you're going to have an interest that is going to be considered as an associate already. Ang problema, bumili ka kasi nung additional nung December. Ayun, no? December ka bumili. So kung December mo binili, December lang naging associate. So kung December lang naging associate, kailan ka lang magkakaroon ng right to receive a portion of the income? December 31 din lang. Eh ang tanong, December 31 nag-report ng income na 20 million, pero for the entire year yan. So ibig sabihin, kung December 31 lang naging associate, wala tayong right over the income. So in other words, ang laman lang dapat ng ating investment will be yung 15 million plus yung 35 million dito. So 15 plus 35 is equal to 50 million. So ito lang sagot natin. Oops. Naging ganun. Yan. So 50 million lang ang sagot natin dyan. Okay? Wala tayong right to get, ang tawag dito, to get income, or basically kung kukunin mo kasi yon, yung 200 divided by 500, so that's 40%. Kukunin mo yung 40%, edi magiging 8 million yon. Eh wala ka namang right over the 8 million. Okay? So yun lang. Sige, next tayo. 11. Kung may tanong, ano lang i-message lang dun sa ating chat box. Okay? So anyway. Next. 11. Thomas Company acquired 10% of the outstanding voting rights of Ella Company on January 1. Tapos nag-gain siya ng ability to exercise significant influence by acquiring 30% ulit. Kailan to? Noong January 1, 2012. So, ibig sabihin, pumili siya ng 30 pa. So, 40% na yung hawak niya. Okay? The two purchases were made at prices proportionate to the value assigned to Ella's net assets, which equal their carrying amounts. For the years ended December 31, 2011 and 2012, Ella reported the following. So, ang tanong, in 2012, what amount should Thomas report as a current year investment income as an adjustment to 2011 income respectively? Okay, so wait lang. Ang tinatanong, magkano yung i-report na 2012 and an adjustment to 2011 income. Okay, so actually walang sagot dito kasi old question to. Nung sa old kasi na standard, nung hindi pa na-revise ang IAS 28, ang mangyayari, retrospective ang treatment ng ating, ang tawag dito, ng ating equity method. So ang mangyayari doon, parang ang mangyayari for 2011, mag-equity ka rin daw dito. So ang lalabas na sagot dito, kung sakali man, wait lang, compute muna natin. So ang lalabas na investment income natin dito, kung tayo ay may 40% interest. So yung sa 2012 muna. So 15 million, kasi 15 million yung ating income doon. Tapos multiply natin ng 40%. Ay, 0.4. So that's 6 million. So ang sagot natin is either A or B. Ngayon, kung i-consider natin yung ang tawag dito, kung i-consider natin yung retrospective measurement nun, ang mangyari dyan, dapat nung 2011, 10% ang i-recognize nating net income dito. So dapat 800 yon, 800,000. Ang ni-recognize lang natin 10% ng dividend, so that's going to be 500. So may adjustment dapat na 300. So ang sagot, letter B ang sagot mo. Okay. Okay. This is, lagyan natin ng note. Letter B under old standard. Okay. Gagawa tayo ng letter E. This is going to be 6 million and 0. 0. Okay. This is going to be our answer dahil sa bagong standard. Okay. So letter E under new standard. So lagyan ko na lang siya ng additional na note din. Okay? So kasi kapag sa news yung new standard, hindi naman talaga siya bagong standard. Existing na lang ilagay natin. Existing standard. So kapag under existing standard, di ba, prospective ang treatment ng equity method. So wala tayong adjustment na gagawin doon sa prior year. Okay, so yun. Kaya letter E ang magiging sagot natin sa number 11. Okay. Number 12, okay. Benji Company owns 50% of Jackie Company's preferred stock and 30% of its common stock. Jackie's stock outstanding at December 31 includes 20 million of 10% cumulative preferred stock and 50 million of common stock. Jackie reported net income of 10 million for the year 2012. What amount should Benji report as investment income for the year 2012? Okay. So, ang tinatanong dito, magkano yung income na i-recognize natin? Okay? I-recognize natin for 2012. Okay. Sige. So, investment income ang pinag-uusapan na. So, ibig sabihin, isasama mo pati yung investment income dun sa preferred. Okay. So, unahin muna natin ito. 10% cumulative preferred stock and 50 million common stock. So, ibig sabihin, kung 20 million yon tapos 10%, magtatanggal tayo ng 2 million doon sa net income. Okay? Para makuha muna natin yung net income attributable to our common shares. Tapos kukunin natin yung 50% doon. Take note, 50% yan. So, hindi pa rin natin pwedeng sabihin na subsidiary, ha? Okay? Sorry. Kasi kung yan preferred stock yan, ha? Okay? 30% lang yung ownership natin sa common stock. So, ibig sabihin, yun lang yung tawag dito, basis ng investment in associate na income. Okay? So, i-plot natin. Magkano yung net income? 10 million. Okay. So, dito tayo gagawa. Ibang ano na lang. Okay. So, income of associate is 10 million. Okay. Kunin natin yung preferred dividends. Okay. Yung preferred dividends, di ba cumulative? So, kung cumulative, babawas pa rin natin. So, that's going to be 10% of 20 million. So, that's going to be 2 million. Wait, ayusin lang natin to. Okay. So, ngayon, yung income for common stock is going to be ito minus yun. Okay? So, ngayon, yung share of, ano na pangalan nito? Benji. Share of Benji is going to be equal to ito times yung ating 30% ownership. Okay? So, share of Benji, lagay natin common. Okay. Meron pa. Kasi meron pang share of Benji preferred. Diba? Kasi kung preferred dividends ito, tapos sa kanya yung 50%, That's going to be, wait lang, ano ba nangyari? May declaration ba ng dividends? Wala. So, yun ang problema. Walang binigay. Kasi ito, binawas lang natin because it is cumulative. Pero walang sinabi na nag-declare ng dividend. So, ibig sabihin, ito lang i-recognize natin. Hindi pa natin pwedeng i-recognize yung share ni Benji na preferred. Kasi, kung preferred yon, ang basis lang ng income mo dito is the dividends paid. Eh wala namang declaration, wala ring payment, malamang. So, hindi natin pwedeng i-recognize yung kalahati nito. Kasi malamang ang isasagot mo baka 3,400,000. Pero hindi pwede. Ito lang ang pwede mong i-recognize. Okay, yan lang. Okay? Kasi, ito lang yung in relation to your share as an associate. You cannot yet recognize the 1 million na 50% nung buong 2 million kasi walang sinabi sa problem na meron nga tayong dividend payment. Okay? Walang sinabi dun sa problem. Okay? So, yun lang ang sagot natin. Letter B. We go to yung basics lang muna ulit. This is part 2. Equity method where the cost is equal to fair value of interest acquired. So, ito yung basic lang. Okay, so, use the following information to answer the next 5 questions. So, on January 1, 20X1, a base company purchased 20,000 shares of the 100,000 total outstanding shares of Praise Incorporated for 4 million. So, that's exactly 20%. The assets and liabilities approximate their fair values. In 20X1, Praise Incorporated reported profit of 12 million and declared and paid cash dividends of 800,000. In 20X2, nag-report naman ng loss na 8 million. Pagkatapos, nag-declared and issued ng 10% stock dividend and reported gain on property revaluation na 2 million and loss on exchange difference in translation naman na 400,000. Okay. So, first question, how much is the share in the profit or loss of the associate in 20X1? So, easy lang yan. Madali lang naman masolve yan kasi kung nag-recognize tayo dito ng profit na 12 million at atin yung 20%. So, 12 million times 0.2. Kasi atin yung 20% doon. So, that's going to be 2,400,000. So, letter B na yan. Okay. Next question, magkano yung carrying amount of investment on December 31, 20X1? So, labas na lang natin yung ating computation dito. So, yun. So, mag-start tayo dito kasi binili natin ng 4 million. Tapos, yung share in income natin, na-compute na natin, that's 2,400,000. Pagkatapos nag-declare ng dividends, 800,000 sa atin yung 20%. So that's going to be 800,000 times 20%. So that's going to be 160. So ito yung magiging balance ng ating investment. 6,240. So that's going to be letter B. Okay. Next tayo, question number 3. Magkano daw yung investment income or loss sa profit naman dito, okay, for 20X2. So, ang gagawin muna natin, bago natin simulan, itong 6,240 na ending nung first year, ilipat ko siya dito. So, gagawin ko tong 6,240 dito. Tapos, doon tayo maghahanap ngayon ng additional information. Okay, yung sinabi, ang share in loss, kasi nalugi, di ba? Loss na 8 million. So, dito tayo ngayon. So, lugi tayo ng 8 million. Multiply natin ng 20%. So, ito yung share in loss natin. So, ang sagot natin sa number 3, share in loss is letter C. 1,600,000. Magkano yung share in other comprehensive income? So, dito naman tayo maglalagay. Okay? So, una, sinabi may property revaluation na 2 million. That's actually a credit to revaluation surplus or OCI. So, ang lalabas ngayon dyan, dito tayo. So, that's going to be 2 million. Pero 20% lang sa atin dyan. Okay, so that's going to be 400,000. Pagkatapos, may 400,000 naman na loss in foreign exchange differences. So, dito naman yon. So, that's going to be 400,000 times 20% ulit. That's going to be So net, pag ni-net natin to, that's going to be 320. So yun yung sagot natin, letter A. Okay. Net share in other comprehensive income. So kapag nilagyan mo kasi ng parenthesis, ibig sabihin that's going to be a loss. Okay, so net natin is 320. So that's going to be letter A. Tapos ang next na tanong, magkano yung carrying amount ng investment no December 31, 20x2? So ito, meron bang dividend na binigay? That's actually stock dividend. So kung stock dividend, there is no journal entry. So wala tayong recognize na income. So ito na yan. 4960 will be the answer. That's going to be letter A. Okay. So yun yung answer natin dito. Okay, next tayo. Next naman tayo will be kapag merong excess yung ating cost over the fair value. So on January 1, Abet Company purchased 25% interest in the ordinary shares of Encourage Incorporated for 8 million. Assets and liabilities approximate fair values except for inventory with carrying amount of 2 million and fair value of 400. So this is overstated. And depreciable asset with carrying amount of 12 million and fair value of 20 million. So this is now understated. The remaining useful life of the depreciable asset is 10 years. Net assets has a book value of 20 million. Okay. So ang tinatanong sa atin, itong mga question na to. So first, compute muna natin yung necessary computation natin for this. Okay? Ang cost natin, kasi binili daw natin siya ng 8 million. Yung book value ng net assets natin, di ba ang book value daw ay 20 million, ang sa atin 25%. So that's basically going to be 20 million times 25% or basically that's 5 million. So meron tayong excess na 3 million. Okay? So ang mangyari ngayon dyan, meron tayong, tanggalin ko tong isa, kasi isa lang naman yung ating undervalued. Ang undervalued lang natin is yung property, plant, and equipment, yung depreciable asset, ayun with carrying amount of 12 million, fair value of 20 million. So ibig sabihin, this is undervalued by 8 million. Okay? So this is going to be 8 million, pero ang sa atin lang dyan ay 25%. Okay? Pagkatapos, yung overvalued asset natin will be yung inventory. So dito tayo, inventory to. Okay? The inventory is overvalued by, kung 2 million yon, tapos 400,000 lang talaga yung fair value, overvalued siya ng 1,600,000. It's going to be 1,600,000. Multiply natin ng 25% kasi yun lang yung sa atin. Okay, so ang mangyari ngayon dyan, that's going to be 3 million. Bawas natin ito, dagdag natin to. So meron tayong goodwill na tawag dito, 1,400,000. Okay. So gain yan kapag nag-negative to. Okay, pero goodwill yan na 1,400,000. So anyway, first question, how much is the goodwill that will be subsumed in the carrying amount of the investment, or magkano yung naka-embed or yung nakalagay dun sa total amount na attributable to goodwill? That's going to be letter A, 1,400,000 na goodwill. Ito na yun. Next, how much is the share in the profit or loss of the associate in 20x1? So bago natin i-solve yan, i-plot lang muna natin yung data natin dito. So magkano ulit to? 4 million, no? Ay, 4 million ba? 8 million pala, sorry. Okay, tapos tanggalin natin to kasi hindi pa natin alam. Ang sinabi sa problem, nung 20x1, nag-report ng 4,800,000 na profit. So dito tayo maglalagay ngayon dito ng 4,800,000, pero yung 25% lang sa atin. Okay? Pagkatapos, nagbayad ng dividends na magkano ulit to? 2 million. Okay? So 2 million, so that's going to be dividends, 2 million. Oops, sorry. Yung net income natin, hindi pala natin na-adjust. So, kailangan pa natin mag-adjust. Pero anyway, tapusin ko muna yung dividends. 2 million times 25%. Okay. Hindi pa pala to adjusted. Kailangan natin mag-adjust. Sorry. So, ang net income kasi natin is 4,800,000. Tapos, kung kukunin natin yung share natin, that's going to be ito times 25% lang. Okay? Ano yung mga i-adjust natin? Adjust natin dun sa depreciation. Tapos punta naman tayo doon sa inventory. Add naman to ngayon. Okay? So add inventory kasi yung cost of sales natin is overstated naman. Okay. So yung depreciation ng ating PPE, 'di ba sinabi 12 million as compared to 20 million, so merong 8 million na difference. So yung 8 million na difference has still a remaining useful life of 10 years. So ibig sabihin 800 lang yung ating item dito. So this is going to be 800,000. Ang sa atin dito will be ito times 25%. Okay? Pagkatapos yung inventory natin, yung overstatement, yung 1.6 kanina, di ba? So 1.6 to. Tapos ang sa atin lang dito will be yung 25%. Okay. So generally, ang mangyayari ngayon dyan, yung adjustment ng ating net income will be ito. Tapos ito yung share natin. Okay? So ang tanong ngayon dyan, how much is the net share in the profit or loss of the associate? Okay. Ba't hindi lumalabas yung sagot? Wait lang ah. Magkano yung na-recognize natin dito? Ito yung sa atin. So that's going to be, mali yung formula. Okay. So that's going to be ito, minus ito, plus ito. Yan, sorry. Mali yung formula. Yan. Okay. So lalabas ngayon yung 1,400,000 natin. Kasi overstated to. So, ulitin ha. Ito, ibawas natin itong under depreciation kasi undervalued ngayong asset. Tapos ito naman yung inventory, dagdag natin kasi sobra na yung cost of sales. Okay? So, add back natin. Magiging ito yung total, ito yung sa atin. Okay, so ang sagot natin sa problem na to, ito yung share natin. Sa income, 1,400,000. Tapos magkano yung carrying amount of the investment? So, balik ulit tayo dito. Ang ilalagay natin dito is 1,400,000. Okay. Tapos ito yung dividend. So, meron tayong 8,900,000. That's going to be letter D. Okay. So, yun yung lalabas na answer natin sa number 8. Okay. Next tayo. Determining the percentage of ownership. This is now considering the tawag dito, yung mga additional na shares na in-acquire or yung mga potential voting rights. So anyway, number 9 tayo. On January 1, 2021, a price company acquired 50,000 newly issued shares of Inform Incorporated at 40 per share. Before the acquisition, Inform had 100,000 ordinary shares outstanding. During the year, the associate reported profit of 900,000. How much is the share of the how much is the share in the associate's profit? Okay? So, basically, ganito yun, no? So, 50 daw newly acquired yan or newly issued. Okay? Before the acquisition, 100,000 lang yung hawak. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, ang mangyayari ngayon dyan, ganito. Kung dati, 100,000 lang yung outstanding shares nung ating associate, tapos ikaw ay bumili ng 50,000, then 150,000 na lahat yung total shares. Okay? Kung sa'yo yung 50,000 doon, out of the total 150,000 shares, then sa'yo yung 1/3. Okay? So, kung kumita ngayon ng 900,000 na profit yung ating associate, sa'yo yung 1/3, so ang lalabas ay 300,000, letter B, ikaw yun. Yan yung para sa'yo. Okay? So, yan lang yung sagot sa number 9. Next, ito yung may potential. Okay? So, aficionado company owns 15,000 shares out of the 100 outstanding shares of Fund Incorporated. So, kapag kinonsider mo yan, 15% lang talaga ang ownership mo. So, hindi ka talaga magka-qualify as associate. Pero, sinabi, as of year-end, aficionado holds 20,000 stock rights which enable aficionado to acquire additional shares from Fund on a 2 rights for 1 share basis. So, ibig sabihin, kung 2 rights for 1 share, itong 20,000 stock rights mo, okay, divided by 2, makaka-acquire ka ng additional na 10,000 shares. Okay? The stock rights are exercisable immediately. Okay? Pero hindi mo pa siya in-exercise ngayon. So, ibig sabihin, potential voting rights pa lang yan. So, ang tanong ngayon, kapag in-exercise ba natin itong 20,000 stock rights na to, magkakaroon ba tayo ng significant influence? Okay? So, i-consider muna natin yan. So, ganito. Kapag ginamit natin yung stock rights na to, na 20,000 stock rights divided by 2, magkakaroon tayo ng additional na 10,000 shares. So yung 10,000 na to plus yung original na 15,000 natin, magkakaroon tayo ng 25,000 shares out of hindi na 100 ito ngayon. Kasi madadagdag yung i-acquire natin sa denominator, so magiging 110,000 shares na to. So divided by 110,000 shares, so this is going to be 22% or 23% basically. So pwede ka nang mag-qualify as associate. Therefore, with your potential voting rights, magiging investment in associate mo na itong investment mo kay fund. So ibig sabihin, pwede ka nang gumamit ngayon ng equity method. So ang nangyari, nung year-end daw, nag-report ng 4 million at saka nagbayad nag-declare ng cash dividend na 400. Okay, tapos the investment has carrying amount of 1,200,000 before any year-end adjustment. So first question, magkano yung share in profit mo? Okay, take note kung ang basis ay kung ang kinukuha natin ay kung pwede kang magkaroon ng significant influence, isama mo yung potential. Pero kapag yung actual din lang gagamitin mo. So currently, kung ikaw ay may 15,000 shares, out of the total 100,000 shares, 15% lang ang ownership mo, yun lang ang makukuha mo doon sa total na ni-report na 4 million na profits. So times 4 million tayo dito. So ang lalabas ay 600,000, yun lang yung share mo, 600,000. Okay? How much is the carrying amount of the investment? Okay? So that's going to be ito. Tapos ibawas natin yung dividends. Okay? So ang mangyari ngayon dyan, ilabas lang natin ito. So ano yung initial amount ng investment? 1,200,000. Tapos yung share in income natin ay 600. Magkano yung dividend? Okay, pag hindi natin sinama yun, may 1.8 doon. Okay, pero basically, we're going to recognize a dividend na magkano yan? Paste na lang to. Kasi lang lalabas kapag ano eh. Okay, 400,000, no? So, 400,000 times 0.15 lang. Okay, so ito. So ito yung magiging balance mo, 1,740. So that's going to be letter C. Okay, so yun yung sagot natin dyan. Okay, next. Paano kapag merong mga cumulative shares? So dito na yung magkakaroon tayo na naman ng adjustment doon sa i-recognize natin na income. Okay, so Austere Company owns 20% of Sevier Incorporated's ordinary shares. Sevier also has an outstanding cumulative 6% preference shares of 8 million. Okay? None of those preference shares is held by Austere. Okay? Cumulative preference shares are in arrears for 3 years. Or dividends are in arrears for 3 years. Sevier reported year-end profit of 4 million and declared no dividends. Okay, so first question, magkano yung profit or yung share natin doon sa profit ng associate? So bago natin magawa yan, kailangan muna nating i-consider yung preference dividends kasi cumulative eh. So kapag cumulative, kailangan nating magbawas ng 1-year dividend. So compute muna tayo dito. So yung income ng associate based on the problem is 4 million. Kunin natin yung preferred dividends. If that is 8 million at may 6% doon. Okay, so that's going to be 6% ng 8 million. So meron tayong 480 na preferred dividend. So ito na lang yung income for common shares natin. So ito siya. Tapos ilan yung sa atin? Hindi tayo si Benji ngayon. Ano ang pangalan natin ngayon? Austere, di ba? Okay. So yung kay Austere ngayon ay 20% yung hawak natin. So that's going to be ito times 0.2. Okay. So yun. 704,000. That's going to be letter A. Next question. What if the shares are redeemable preference shares and Sevier declared 150 cash dividends on the redeemable preference shares during the year? How much is the share in the profit or loss of the associate? Okay? So ano ngayon ang mangyayari dyan? So ang mangyayari, yung instead na preferred dividends, ang mangyayari dyan, tatanggalin na natin to. Ignored na siya. Kasi, yung 150 dito, na cash dividend, since that is a redeemable preference share, it is going to be assumed as if it is going to be interest. So kung interest siya, na-deduct na siya nung na-arrive mo yung net income na 4 million. So ibig sabihin, hindi mo na kailangan mag-deduct. So with that, ignore mo na yung nandito, wala ka nang i-recognize, automatic, ito na yung income for common stock natin, tapos kunin mo na lang yung 20%, yun na yung kay austere. Okay? So that's going to be 800,000. So that's letter B. Okay? So yan. Next, 14 to 16. Okay? So ito naman yung step acquisition na ngayon. So ang gagawin natin dito, we are going to determine kung ano yung mga items, okay, dito, such as yung carrying amount noong July, share in profit, at saka carrying amount noong December. Okay, sige. So, basahin muna natin. On January 1, Postulate Company acquired 10,000 shares representing a 10% interest in Demand Incorporated's 100,000 outstanding shares for 3,200,000. So yan yung current na hawak natin nung January 1. In 20X1, Demand reported profit of 20 million and declared and paid dividends of 4 million. The investment was initially classified as investment in held for trading securities measured at FPPL. The fair value of the shares on December 31 is 340 per share. Okay? So, as of December 31, the investment in held for trading securities has carrying amount of 3,400,000 equal to fair value. Okay, so gawin muna natin yung entries natin ng 20x1. Okay, para hindi tayo magka-problema muna. Okay, so gagawin lang muna natin yung ating January 1, 20x1. So this is going to be investment in financial asset at FVPL. Okay. Tapos cash na lang kunyari yan. So ang nire-recognize nating amount will be, magkano yung sinabi? 3,200,000. Para makuha natin lahat. Okay. Tapos, yung cash natin, yun na rin. Okay. Ang next na mangyari dyan, pagdating ng December 31, 20x1. Ang sinabi, nag-report ng profit na 20 million and declared and paid dividends of 4 million. So dito lang tayo magkakaroon ng journal entry, yung pagkaka-declare ng dividends na 4 million, atin yung 10%, so 400,000 yun. So recognize tayo ng cash dito, credit tayo ng dividend income. Okay, that's 400,000. Yung 10% nung dividends na dineclare. Pagkatapos, ganoon din December 31, kasi sinabi, yung carrying value ay yung fair value na daw ng investment natin is 3,400,000. Okay, as compared dun sa 3,200,000. So magre-recognize tayo ng change in fair value, okay? Or unrealized gain na 200,000. So debit tayo dito ng direct adjustment na lang tayo, investment in financial assets na lang tayo. At FVPL, tas credit tayo dito ng unrealized gain. Nasa P&L papasok, that's 200,000. Okay. Pagkatapos, punta na tayo sa next year. Sinabi, nung July 1, 20x2, Postulate acquired additional 15,000 shares at 280 per share, resulting to an increase in ownership interest over demand from the previous 10% to 25%. The transaction did not give rise to any goodwill or negative goodwill. In 20x2, nag-report ng profit. So ano ngayon ang mangyayari dyan? So in this case, ngayon, step acquisition, from the time, so gagawa tayo ng entry ng July 1, 20x2, ang gagawin natin, i-re-measure muna natin yung investment, okay, at fair value, tapos saka natin i-recognize yung additional na binili. Kasi from this time, noong July, because of the additional purchase, magkakaroon tayo ng step acquisition, okay, or mababawasan yung, or madagdagan yung ating share, maging associate na natin to. So ang mangyari muna, recognize muna tayo ng unrealized loss. Unrealized loss na papasok sa P&L. Bakit unrealized loss? Kasi sinabi, yung value na lang daw nung shares during that time is 280 per share. Okay? So kung 280 per share yon, multiply natin dun sa 10,000 na hawak natin, ito na lang yung value niyan. Di ba? Yung investment in yung investment in FVPL natin 3,200,000 yon. So magkano yung lugi natin? Lugi tayo ngayon ng that's going to be 2,800,000 compared to yung last pala na value is 3,400,000, no? Kasi nag-increase pa tayo dito ng 200. So ang mangyayari ngayon diyan, that's going to be 3,400,000 minus yung recent na fair value measurement. So lugi tayo ng 600,000. Okay? So that's going to be a credit to investment in financial asset at FVPL na 600,000 din. Okay. Tapos, next entry natin, recognize pa tayo ng ating additional na item for the recognition of the investment in associates. So, ang mangyari ngayon dyan, investment in associate, magkano mo i-recognize ang investment in associate? Okay? You are going to recognize it at the cost of the new purchase plus the fair value of the original item na hawak mo. Okay? So basically, yun ay yung 2,800,000 na original na hawak mo plus yung binili mong 15,000 shares at 280 din. Okay? So that's 15,000 times 280 per share. So ito na yung total na investment in associate mo. I-credit natin yung cash at saka yung investment in financial asset at fair value kasi dide-recognize na natin yun. Magkano yung cash? Yun yung 280 times 15,000 shares. Tapos yung ating investment in financial asset at FVPL, yun yung 2,800,000 na original. Okay? At fair value. Okay, so yun yun ha. So 7, pagkadin mo tong dalawang to, yun na rin yan. Next na entry. Nung 20x2, nag-report ng 24 million na profit, of which 16 million were during the second half. So, ibig sabihin, ito lang yung may right tayo na tanggapin. So, ang gagawin mo ngayon, ganito. Gawa tayo ng entry December 31, 20x2. That's going to be investment in associate. Tapos, credit tayo dito ng investment income. Or income from associate. Wala namang problema. Basta yun yun. So, ang gagawin mo ngayon dyan, kunin mo lang yung, sa 16 million lang, kasi yun lang yung may right tayo. 16 million times, ang tanong, ilan na yung shares na, ilan na yung percentage. Magiging 25% na yung ownership mo. So, 25% tayo dito. Oops, kulang. 4 million. Tayo ngayon dyan, yun yung investment income natin. Okay? Tapos, nagkaroon ng dividend din. Sinabi, in addition, nag-declare at nagbayad ng dividend na 4 million. So, yung 4 million na yun, wala problema. Yun yung cash na matatanggap natin. Yun ay lahat. Hindi dividend income. Yun ay bawas na ngayon sa investment in associate. Kasi equity method na tayo dyan. So, that's going to be 4 million times 25%. Yun. Okay. So, yan yung item natin dyan. Okay, so if we consider, ang unang tanong, magkano yung share in the profit of the associate, that's going to be 4 million, yun yung nakalagay sa journal entry. Tapos magkano yung magiging carrying amount ng ating investment. So kung mapapansin mo, investment in associate na 7 million, nadagdagan ng 4 million, nabawasan ng 1 million, so magiging 7 plus 4 minus 1 is going to be 10 million. So the answer there is letter A, 10 million. So, yun yung sagot natin sa 14, 15, and 16. Okay? Last item tayo ngayon. This is going to cover yung mga share in losses. Okay? Share in losses natin doon sa ating associate. Okay. So, ang nangyari, sa problem na to, meron daw tayong 20% ownership kay questioning. At ito yung mga naka-record as of December 31, 20x1. Okay? So, ito yung mga items. Okay? Prior to recognizing this mga items dito. So, ang nangyari dyan, questioning reported losses of 5,600,000, 2,400,000 in 20x1, 20x2, and 20x3 respectively. In 2003 or 20x3, Skeptical incurred constructive obligation in favor of questioning in the amount of 480 sorry, and made 320,000 payments on behalf of questioning. In 20x4, questioning reported profit of 4 million. So ang tanong, how much is the share in the loss of the associate in 20x1? Okay. So first, ang gagawin muna natin dito, i-plot lang muna natin yung mga items natin dito. So, gawa muna tayo ng total interest in the associate. Okay. So, kopyahin natin to. Ano ba yung mga laman natin? Yung investment in associate, kasama ba yan dun sa ating interest? Yes. So, ilagay natin dito mismo yung investment in associate. Na ang amount ay, ayusin ko lang muna. Okay, ang amount ng investment in associate natin ay 800. Okay. Pagkatapos, ano pa? Yung trade accounts receivable, hindi yan kasama. Investment in preferred shares, kasama yan. Okay? So, investment in preferred shares. Pagkano yung preferred shares natin doon? 400,000. Tapos, advances to associate. Okay, loans receivable secured. Okay, so ang kasama lang ay itong advances to associate na 200,000. This is unsecured borrowing. Okay, so advances associate. Sorry. So, that's going to be 200,000. So, ang total interest natin ngayon, therefore, is equal to yung sum nito. So, kaya nating mag-absorb ng hanggang 1,400,000. Okay? So, plot natin ngayon yung nangyari ng 20x1. 20x1, meron tayong loss from associate. Ang loss natin from associate nung 20x1, 5,600,000. Ilang percent hawak natin? 20%. Okay, so 5,600,000 times 25%. So, ito na agad yung, wait lang, 5 million, tama ba? Losses of 5,600,000. 20% lang, sorry. 20%. Yan. So, meron na agad tayong loss from associate. So, anong gagawin mo ngayon dyan? Saan mo kukunin yung ito? Kukunin mo dito, di ba? So, basically, tatanggalin natin yung investment in associate at kukunin natin yung investment in preference share dito. Okay? Tapos, meron pa tayong 20x2. May loss ulit tayo from associate. Magkano yung loss from associate daw? 2 million. Tapos sa atin yung 20%. Okay? So, pag i-compute natin yon 2 million times 20%. Okay? Pag ito total natin to ngayon, 1,520. Ito lang ang interest mo. So, hindi ka pwedeng mag-exceed dito, di ba? Kasi mag-zero out na siya. So, ang mangyayari ngayon dito, yung loss from associate natin will only be equal to 280. Tapos, meron tayong magkano yung hindi na-recognize? 120. Okay? 120,000 disclosed. Only. Okay? Kasi hindi natin ma-absorb yun. Okay, so tama na, 120,000 ngayon yung hindi pa na-recognize. Pagkatapos may 20x3 pa tayo na loss from associate. Okay, so ang mangyari ngayon dyan, magkano yun? 400,000. So that's going to be 400,000 times 20%. So itong 80,000, this is going to be 80,000 disclosed also. Only. Okay. So yun. So overall, all in all, ang total na hindi mo na-absorb na losses ay 200,000 na. Okay, so yun na lahat yun. Ano pa ang next na nangyari? Ang next na nangyari, in addition doon sa nangyari na, ang ginawa mo pa, nag-incur ka pa ng constructive obligation na 480,000. Okay? At nagbayad ka ba ng 320,000 noong 20x3? Okay? So, ibig sabihin, dito sa 20x3 na to, may loss ka from associate, tapos meron ka pang additional losses and expenses na equivalent to 320 at saka 480. So, 320,000 plus 480,000. So, yun yung total na recognize natin. Okay, so ngayon, tignan natin kung ano yung nangyari. Tapos nung ano nangyari? Nung 20x4, nag-report ka na ng profit na 4 million ngayon. So, 20x4, profit from associate. So, sorry. That's going to be equal to 4 million times 20%. So, may 800,000 dyan. Pero, 200,000 will absorb losses. Okay? Yung loss na to. Yung naka-disclose lang. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, ang net nito, 600,000 lang yung ma-recognize natin. So, anyway, moving on. First question, how much is the share in the loss of the associate in 20x1? Ang sagot natin dito ay 1,120,000. That's going to be letter A. Next question, how much is the share in the loss of the associate in 20x2? Ang sagot ay 280 lang kasi hindi na natin pwedeng i-absorb yung additional 120,000 kasi hanggang 1,400,000 lang yung ating interest. Okay? So, 120 yung disclose lang, 280 lang ang pwedeng ma-absorb kaya 280 lang sagot natin dito. Sa number 19, magkano yung share in the loss of the associate in 20x3? Supposedly 0 kasi i-disclose lang natin itong buong 80 na to. Okay, so tanggalin ko na lang to. Yan. Okay, kasi wala dapat tayong i-recognize. 0 dapat yan kasi 280 disclose lang yun. Okay? So wala na sana tayong i-recognize for 20x3. Kaso yun nga, nag-incur ka ng additional payments at saka nag-incur ka ng mga liabilities on behalf of the associate amounting to 800,000. This 800,000 will now be recognized as additional losses. Okay? So that's going to be letter D. Okay? So letter D yan. Okay? 800,000. Tapos finally, 20x4, how much is the share in the profit of the associate? So supposedly, 800,000 siya, pero meron ka kasing i-absorb na 120 at saka 80. So ang mangyari ngayon dyan, bawas natin yung 120,000 at saka yung 80,000. So that's going to be 600,000 only. Okay? So, yun yung sagot natin ngayon. Letter A.